Welcome back, everybody. So today we're going to have the first tasting of my used up IPA 1. Now, what is this? This is just because I'm making small batches and I'm not using like quarters or half pounds or whatever. I have a lot of smaller containers that just have a little bit of grain left in there, and I figured, hey, let's clean all those up, just dump it in there and see what we get. So here is the recipe for the first version of this. 1 pound 9 ounces of Maris Otter, 1 pound of 2-row, 4 ounces of cherry wood smoked. Yeah, that's it. So that is the grain bill. For the hop schedule, now the hops are, I've got, you know, a pound of everything, so I just reached in there, grabbed it, and that's what we're putting in here. So 0.15 ounces of Warrior at 60 minutes, 0.25 ounces of Citra at 15 minutes, 0.25 ounces of Amarillo at 10, 0.25 ounces of El Dorado at 5, Whirlpool 170 for 15 minutes, 0.25 ounces of Citra, 0.25 ounces of Amarillo, 0.25 ounces of El Dorado. Post-boil gravity was 17.25 bricks. On that one, there was no dry hop, and this is using the Voss Kveik yeast, which would be Omega 062. Very fast yeast. I actually fermented this upstairs in a closet. It's probably 72, 74, somewhere in there. Usually this kind of yeast can tolerate all the way up to like 95, so I wanted to keep it warmer. So that's what I did. Per Beersmith, this is 96.3 IBUs. Should have came out to 6.5%. This hit 8.22%. Bottled on 2/4, almost a month old. Let's see if we get a hiss. Good hiss, good smoke. I will say this, just for people that watch my videos all the time, I opened my New England Azaka Medusa beer and it was green. So I stopped that video, but I'm not going to say anything. We'll see how many people watch these. So let's go ahead and pour this in there. And it did not have a hiss. So that's the second one this year that I've had that hasn't had a hiss. There we go. Now, for the color already, we are starting to get some bubbles. I did not write down how many carbonation tablets I had on there. We are getting the white head from what I can see, not even a quarter finger. Small and medium bubbles on there. Color, nice golden orange color, very hazy. Almost looks like the Citra Galaxy and Azaka Medusa, just regular beers that I made. Haziness could be from the yeast. It's could be from the Maris Otter, I guess. I would say more from the yeast, if anything. Gonna leave all that yeast in suspension. Let's go ahead and smell. I'm not sure what to think about. I mean, this is almost 100 IBUs technically. So I don't know if it's gonna be more like a double West Coast IPA or if it's gonna be like in the middle, because that Maris Otter is gonna have some sweetness with it. We're using some bitter hops, so that's gonna drive up the IBUs. But we're also gonna have some fruitiness in there. So is that Maris Otter sweetness gonna mix with the fruitiness? But we're about ready to find out. Let's go ahead and smell. I think if anything, I get the Maris Otter, like a very sweet breadiness, maybe followed by a touch of fruitiness in there. Fruitiness, citrus, but to me it smells like our Maris Otter beers. That, not including the hop, I'm not getting a lot of hops from this, but that smell reminds me of some of our first Marisada beers that Steve made. Maybe some smokiness. Yeah, now that it's warmed up, that sweet Marisada graininess is there, a little bit of smokiness, a touch of fruit citrus, and that's it. Which is very surprising to me that this thing's almost 100 IBUs and we're not getting a lot out of it. Well, let's go ahead and see if this is good. This is why, though, you write down every recipe. Because if this is good, now I can recreate it because I did write it down. And most of the time, I've made 2 of these so far, so the next one will be coming up soon. But I just write it down on a piece of paper. I go find all my ingredients, I measure them out, I put them in the crusher, and then after the full brew day is done, I go into Beersmith, I create a new recipe, put everything in there. And it actually, I don't know how well you guys can see this, it actually pretty much looks like what the picture is. So that turned out well. Did I? Yeah, okay. Okay, enough talking, let's taste. A lot of sweetness from the Marisada malt. The Marisada malt to me is a little overdone. You are getting that big graininess, sweetness, toasted bread sweetness that you would get with a Marisada. There is some bitterness in there, but like that fruit, that citrus mixes well, but that Marisada malt really takes over in there. I still don't know what this cherry smoked wood malt's doing. I don't really taste it. Good beer, nice, smooth. I think the carbonation needs to come up a little bit. I think this is the 3rd time I've used that cherry wood smoked malt. Nothing like I thought it was going to be. I would probably pass on it every single time. 4 ounces. It was almost 10% of the grain bill for an adjunct. I think that's good. You should be able to taste it, smell it. Like I said, we are getting a touch of smokiness, I believe, out of the smell. That Marisada sweetness could be covering up the smoke, as I didn't get it in the what was it, Centennial Cascade beer that I used it in. I don't think I got any cherry, and maybe I've got the wrong feel because I'm thinking like if you smoke with cherry wood, you get that fruity cherry wood in there, and maybe grain is totally different. But I don't know why you would call it cherry wood then, if you're not going to get it. It's good. I think that maltiness from the Marisada is a little too high. Like it wants to have that big juicy fruit there, and there's just way too much sweetness with that malt in there right now. Maybe next month the carbonation will come up, maybe cut through some of that Marisada and be better. The Quebec yeast, I'm not sure what it's doing. That's the first time I've used this. I've heard a lot of people don't like it because it doesn't really do anything to the beer. But what I can say is this was made on, if I'm pretty sure this is right, this was made on January 25th and it was bottled on 2/4. This Quebec yeast went through it like a terror. I thought it was 7 days. I think it was 7 days that I made it, and then on the 7th day I bottled. So yeah, it's definitely a yeast to check out. I do have one more. I think it's the Omega 092 yeast that I do want to try and put it up against this just to see if we can find out the difference. But I think I want to make a 5-gallon batch and do some other yeasts in there, so that'll have to wait. But yeah, this is, I think it's good. It's just, it's way too sweet for me. That Maris Otter malt is just a little too much. I think that Maris Otter sweetness toasted bread is covering up a lot of the IBUs. It does drink like a heavy IBU beer, but not 100. I would probably say 60, 70, somewhere in that range. It is lingering, but in the aftertaste on this, it's more of a juicy fruit sweetness. Just has that Maris Otter malt taste in there. So yeah, definitely one maybe to add to your list, or maybe change out the cherry wood smoked malt and just see what else you can find. But hey, have to use up what I have, so this is what I made. If you enjoyed this video, check some more out over here, and until next time, happy brewing.